everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Distilling Greatness. I'm Jeff Arnett. I'm the master distiller here at Company Distilling, and I'm really excited to be the host today because we have a really exceptional guest with us today, who's certainly somebody who embodies resilience, perseverance, the spirit of overcoming adversity in their life. And our guest today is Mr. J.R. Martinez. He's a man whose story has inspired and uplifted millions of people. J.R. was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, and his journey has taken him from serving in the U.S. Army to becoming a beloved actor, a Dancing with the Stars champion, a New York Times best-selling author, and a motivational speaker touching lives across the globe. His achievements are nothing short of extraordinary. If you have been living under a rock and don't know his story, let me give you a quick overview. So back in 2003, while on a routine patrol in Iraq, JR's life was changed in an instant when his Humvee hit a roadside bomb. He's endured over 34 surgeries, and he found solace in helping fellow survivors, ultimately transforming his pain into purpose. His journey didn't stop there. He went on to star in the acclaimed television series All My Children. He's won the hearts of millions on Dancing with the Stars, where he took home the Mirror Ball Trophy. And today, JR continues to inspire through his powerful storytelling and dedication to giving back. His selflessness is truly admirable. He's not just a public figure, but a loving husband, a loving husband to his wife, Diana, a devoted father to their daughter, Lauren Annabelle, and their son, Leo. JR is also very active, enjoys working out, traveling, spending quality time with his friends and family in Austin, Texas. So join us as we dive deep into JR's remarkable life, exploring how he defines greatness, the key mentors who have helped shape his path, and his profound impact on others. We'll learn about his journey from military service to the entertainment world and how he balances his professional commitments with his time with his family. So without further ado, let's welcome the incredible JR Martinez to Distilling Greatness. JR, thank you so much for joining us today.
That introduction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hate to read scripts like that, but I'm like, I won't be able to say it any better if I don't read it.
Yeah.
So that was too well done. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute honor to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Like I said, thank you very much. You know, it's I have these moments in life when, you know, either I'm doing an event in person and someone reads a bio or plays a video or listening to you read that bio. You know, you just realize that more of us should have these opportunities where, you know, it's almost like everyone should have like a hype video, and everyone should have hear their life and their bio, because I think what's great about that is that the way we're always conditioned the next thing, move forward, look ahead, think of 6 months from now, think of 6 years from now, think of 6 decades from now. You got to have it all planned and figure it out. And as much as I agree with the sentiment of to never look back, I do think it is important at times to kind of stop and reflect. I don't think you should live in the past. I just think there is, you know, listen, you understand this, like brands are always collecting data.
Yep.
That's the thing, to understand their consumer, to understand how they can be more efficient, to be able to just to be successful. And we have to look at our lives as individuals, as in every experience that we have, as collecting data. We're always collecting data. And so for me, as much as I don't like to say, hey, stay in the past, get stuck there, I think it is important as well to, hey, stop, reflect, and kind of pull some data from those experiences, the good, the bad, and then say, okay, what parts of this do I need to learn from? What parts do I need to break in order for me to move forward? And so I just think that when someone reads a bio or has a video played of their experiences, I'm like, man, that's so cool. Like, in all of us, because I even too forget. I'm just too busy thinking of the next thing. That it's nice to have those reminders. So yeah. I guess this is my long-winded way of saying thanks, man. We sound like a rock star.
So I'm going to go completely off script here to get started. So if you were taking the mound to save the game, what song is playing? What's your entry song?
Ooh, man, that is a good one. You know, especially because like now, like my daughter, who's 12 years old and plays travel select club, whatever people call it, depending on where you are, softball, and I'm the head coach. So music is everything for me. I'm like, I'm the coach that, like, we get to practice, we got to find a tune just to set the tone for the practice, set the tone for the game, set the tone for like, hey, this is my starting pitcher, or this is my reliever coming in. I'd probably say Seven Nation Army. I mean, that is like, that boom, 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 boom. It just does
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're a runner at all,
Yep.
you just hitting those BPMs and it just starts hitting that cadence, and you're like, yeah, here I go. So I tend to listen to that, dude. Honestly, and sorry to call you dude. I mean,
No.
but I feel like at this
Yep.
point we're pros, we're
Yep.
comfortable now. But I'm at that point in my life where music means so much to me. And not just one particular genre. I listen to it all. And there's times that I'll listen to Andrea Bocelli before I take a stage, and I listen to the chorus of the song, which we all have heard on some level. The song is "Time to Say Goodbye," and
Yeah.
I actually will sing that to myself. And this is getting a little deeper, but the reason I sing that is because the reason I sing that part, because the way I view myself is that I'm just a vessel being
Hmm.
used, right? Like, and I think we all are
We
just
all
vessel
are.
people.
Yeah.
And most of us don't realize that. And I think
Hmm.
that's the difference, that I've luckily was able to find this out pretty early on in my life. But I know that when I take the stage, I know that when I logged on right now, yeah, it's me, it's JR, it's my face, it's my image that's getting all the acknowledgement and stuff. But I'm just here, I'm a vessel. And it's not me anymore. It's something working through me. And it's not just in my belief, it's like God working through me, but it's also the belief of
Yep.
people that I've interacted with over the last 40 years of my life, especially the last 21 years since my life was forever changed, that have conditioned me and shaped me and just allowed me to become this person. So I love music, man. And so music is it helps me get into, like, if I'm in a certain stage where I'm like, ah, man, something just feels off, I'll lean into that. I'll find some music that'll let me lean into that, that'll let me feel that. That I don't look for other music pull me out of that. No, I'm feeling that for a reason, and I need to like be present with that emotion, and I'm not afraid to do that. But at the same time, like when I find myself on the flip side of it, I'm like, let's play something that gets me going.
Yep.
But you see these guys now in baseball, man, they come out with the relievers, do they come out with these incredible songs. The stadium lights
Oh yeah.
hour and stuff with it. It's a show. So I have to figure out how I would,
It
take the
happens.
mound.
It happens even
So
in college level now. Yeah.
college
Yeah.
level now, man, it's
Yeah.
everything, right? And and well, what was the guy? Oh my God, Edwin, whatever. I can't think of his last name. Pitches for the Mets, and dude was the top of the game, and unfortunately had an injury last year, so was out, but he's back now. But he had that. I think it was like that. I forget the name of the song, and the guy that actually played this song, the musician, he has like trumpets or whatever, and he came to City Field and Queens, New York, and he actually played it when the dude walked out. I was like, ah, I'm not even a Mets fan, but here we
Yeah.
go. So
So
it makes it insane.
yeah, before we go too far, I just want to say, first of all, just thank you for your service to this country. And I know that came at a great cost to you, and it's become, you talk about being a vessel, but, I say that life is a lot about stewardship, that we're
Yeah,
given, I think to those who are given much, much is expected, and you need to kind of think through the gifts that you're given and how you give back, and to be responsible. Don't be wasteful with the opportunities that you're given in life, and some of them will come through challenges at the
yeah,
same time.
absolutely.
So, I would say, I used to pray to get out of situations, but now you pray to kind of bear under them,
Yeah,
and to try to learn from them so that you can
yeah,
share and help others. To be strong enough
absolutely,
to not to be weak and run from it, but to be able to handle whatever you're going to face that
absolutely.
day. So I'm a big believer in that. But stewardship for sure. You call it being a vessel, but I agree the same way. We're all here for a purpose, and hopefully we leave the world a better place by things we say and do and how we help one another.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank
Yep.
you.
So tell me a little bit about what initially motivated you to join the Army and how that has taught you resilience and perseverance in your life.
The military at that stage in my life, fresh out of high school, there were so many components to it. And, you know, there was obviously 9/11 that took place. I was a senior in high school when that happened. That was always, I think, like a lot of us, we were all trying to figure out what to do, whether it was through the military, whether it was through some sort of volunteering, whether there was a multitude of things that people were doing, USO work and sending care packages. I mean, there was a gamut of things that were out there. And so there was that. There was also like I was fresh out of high school, and I thought I was going to go to this school. I wanted to play sports in college, and I thought I knew I was going to go to a D1 school, but there was a D2 school in Georgia called in Carrollton, Georgia, called University of West Georgia, and I went there, took a tour, and they were like, "You can absolutely come to school here, but we know you want to play sports, but unfortunately, you're not going to be eligible to play sports at the college level for 2 years because of academics." So of course that wasn't what I planned. So I wasn't going to go to college then if I couldn't play sports because that was always in my head.
Well, 2
And
years is 2 years is an eternity when you're 18.
exactly, especially you're
My life
18.
is over in 2
Yeah,
years.
like I'm like, give up now. Just let me file for Social Security and just kind of just get a rocking chair, just sit on my front porch and just tell stories. Like,
Yep.
let me just do that at this point. Even though I do that now, like I'm that guy. I'm 40 years old, man. But I tell you what, you ask me one question, I'm like, well, let me tell you a story. So I can only imagine what I'm going to be like when I'm like 70, 80. If I get to 90, well, I'm going to talk everybody's ear off. But yeah, so I was just kind of going through the motions, fresh out of high school, and trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what was an avenue out. And I always lived in these small areas, right? I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, small,
Mhm.
not as small, but
Yep.
so small. But then I grew up in Hope, Arkansas. I lived there from 9 to 17, and that's a really small town. And then moved my senior year of high school to Georgia, and that was obviously bigger than Hope, Arkansas. But I just kind of felt like, man, the military is a great opportunity for me to get money for college, for me to learn about life, for me to travel. There's just so many benefits from it. I was also, man, I was incredibly grateful for this country. I had the luxury and the blessing to be born in this country and raised in this country. My mother did not. My mother is from Central America. And I remember going to Central America as a kid to visit my family. And I just had this reality check and just exposed to a perspective. And I think perspective is good for
Yep.
anybody, especially for kids. Like, listen, I tell people, it's like where I live now, is like where I live and the life I've created for myself and my family. Don't get it twisted. This isn't the way I grew up. Like, I created this life for myself. And so for my
Mhm.
kids, son's too young right now, but my daughter, I'm constantly like trying to get her outside of the bubble, outside of our little comfort zone, and say, hey, this is what the world is like outside of that, within reason, within
Sure.
reason, and that's appropriate for a 12-year-old child, but nonetheless, just trying to give her that perspective because as much as I didn't have all the new pair of shoes when they came out, or the nicest clothes, or the nicest this or that when it came out, I realized by the time I was a teenager, what I did have was I did have freedom. What I did have was the ability to go to school. What I did have is if I wanted to go grab something to eat with my friends, even if it was going to be at Mickey D's, my mom would give me $5 and I'd be fine, right?
Yep.
Like that, and we take that stuff for granted. And so there was just all of that. But when I joined, I went to all the branches, right, in the mall, like the traditional place you go to. You go to the mall. I went to the Air Force, and it didn't feel like that was going to be a fit. Went to I actually passed the Navy. I was like, I'm not going to put myself on the water for X amount of time. I'm not doing that. Then I went to the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps was like, we want you for 4 years. And I was trying to negotiate with the Marine recruiter. And I was like, what about 3? Can we meet at 3? 4. That's it. 4 minimum. And I'm like, I'm gonna go next door to the Army. The Army's like, dude, whatever you want, we'll take you.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
what do you want? And so I joined the Army, and I was intended to do 3 years. That was it. It was only going to be a 3-year term. I was going to get out when I was 22 and just move on with my life. But during that 3 years, I knew I was going to deploy. I knew I would get all these benefits, and I just felt like it was going to be a great experience for me at that stage of my life.
Yep. So, you've shared so much of this journey with the world. Is there something that people who maybe have heard from you before, know a little bit about your story that you haven't talked about? Something that people might be surprised. So you were an athlete. What was your sport? Was it baseball or? football? Or
No, I played football, man. Listen,
I
you
played
know, which
football, but I wasn't good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, listen, it's interesting because, like I said, I coach my daughter's travel softball team, and we're a pretty competitive squad. And coming from a
Mhm.
guy that never played baseball, I tried out. They wanted me to. I was fast once upon a time in my life, and they wanted me to try out. And I remember I got my first at bat in like a tryout practice, whatever it was, and I got hit by a pitch, and I was like, "That's it, I'm done."
That was my Pee Wee experience. I would rather put on pads and have somebody try to run over me than to get hit with a baseball ever again in my life. That was terrible.
Exactly.
I hated
Like, I was
it.
done. I was done after that, man. So I played football, basketball. I tried it. And then, I remember I was in eighth grade, I believe it was. And there was this coach, man. He was just intimidating. And I got in the game and we ran to play. And I was at the free throw line and I was supposed to get the ball. And somebody was setting the screen. And then I was going to dish it out to the 3-point line. But I the ball got passed to me and my back's to the rim and I panicked. I didn't know what to do. So instead of running the play, I just did Jordan fade away from the free throw line. Man, like this is the backboard and this is the rim right here. If you could visualize that, I literally doinked the top of that backboard and and of course the other team gets the rebound. We start running to the other end of the court to play D, and it was just like this nervous tick thing where I just started like not hysterically laughing, but like as I ran down the field, man, coach called time, pulled my ass out of that game. At the end of that bench. That was it for basketball for me. I was like, nah, I don't think. But it's interesting because even when I played football, here's something that's I think. So when I lived in Hope, Arkansas, we were a pretty stacked squad. In my junior year, we went to the state championship game and actually, played against a dude that ended up going to the NFL. And it was like, yeah, he should have been, he should have made it to the NFL. That dude was elite. But I remember that my senior year when I moved to Georgia, I didn't know anybody. Nobody knew me, of course. And a lot I called the head coach of the football team and I said, hey, coach, I just moved here. He said, what year are you going into? I said, senior. He said, we don't take walk-on seniors. And I said, well, I understand that. Just give me a chance to come out and try out. And he said, okay. And so I came out there. Now I wasn't 100% because I just had a surgery on my ankle because I had kind of messed up my ankle. And so, I wasn't running full speed. But what I noticed, a lot of guys, I didn't know who these guys were, but a lot of guys, and after a drill, after something, they, maybe didn't do as best as they would like, or they messed up. They were going back to the line, heads down like this. And I was like, here's this newbie. And I'd go up to him like, hey, come on, slap on the helmet, slap on the ass. Come on, man, let's go. We're good. You're good. Don't sweat it, whatever. And these guys are looking at me like, who is this freshman? Right? They think I'm a freshman, this guy, and after that that tryout, the coach calls me in to his office. He says, hey, you made the team. And I said, well, how? Because I'm not 100%. He said, you made the team because of your attitude. And he says, you're out there encouraging these guys. Like, you don't know them. They don't know you. And he's like, that's what this team needs. And I'd experienced that on that team in Arkansas and understood that's what it took. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to bring that culture, bring that atmosphere, that mindset to this team that in many cases didn't have it. And we went to the state championship. Again, we didn't win, but nonetheless, like, you look back at my senior year of high school and look at clips of our Friday night games, and you're like, okay, where's JR? Where's JR? Oh, is that him on the field right there? No, that's not him on offense. Is that him on defense? No. Is that him on special teams? Where's JR? If the camera ever panned over to the sidelines, that's where I was.
Yeah.
And you know what I was doing? I was standing on the bleachers with a towel. Let's go, pumping everybody up. That was my role.
Yep.
And yes, I did play, but I just embraced this is who I am for this team. And I think that has been the thing that has allowed me to succeed in my adult life because no matter where I've been, I've just embraced the role that I have and knowing that I can make this what I want it to be. And I think that that's where a lot of people sometimes fall short because we're just not embracing and accepting of the role that we have. Now, if it's a detrimental role, if it's not a, very encouraging or promising role, whatever, I get all those things. But we have to like own and take pride in what it is that we do. Instead, we have a tendency to be looking for the next thing, looking for something else I want, envious of what Jeff has or what anybody else has. And it's like, no, just embrace who you are and where you are. And from that, you will elevate everyone around you, and the acknowledgement and recognition and the opportunity will come eventually.
So going down that line of topic and the role that you played and how you elevated others, and felt like that is what you were there to do. What are some of the ways you would define greatness in someone? I mean, because you got role players, right? You know, not everybody can be quarterback, not everybody can be the star running back or best defensive player, but it takes a team and it takes everybody doing things to create a champion. So what defines greatness to you?
That's why I love sports. That's why I think sports are so great. And that's why I believe everybody should play sports. At some level, you should play something because I think it teaches you so much.
Even if it's pickleball? Even if it's pickleball?
Even if it's, hey, man, pickleball's dude, listen, I'm a Saints fan. And you know, I've had the opportunity to meet Drew Brees, you know, and I turns out he and I were speaking at the same conference. This was last year. And I was stoked. Now, he was speaking a day before me. Now, we speakers, this is how we get down. Like, we don't care who's speaking before or after us. We fly in 2 minutes before we're supposed to speak, and then we're out of there 2 minutes after we're done. But in this case, I was like, man, I got to go early because I've never heard Drew speak, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've met him. We've, you know, cut it up a little bit, but I've never heard him speak for an engagement. So I come in early, and you know, we're talking and stuff, and you know, it's a great thing. Well, it comes out that he's like a pickleballer, and he actually has a team. There's a league now, and he has a team. So I'm like, that blew my mind. I didn't realize. And where I live in Austin, this area, everyone's pickleballing. And my wife the other day comes home. She's like, "Oh my God, I just did a lesson for pickleball. We're gonna do it." And I'm like, "Oh no!" Like, as if I get down that road, man. Like, God knows. Like, I'm a pretty like determined dude. No matter what I get into, I'm like, I'm going 100%. But
I got invited. I got invited to play the other day, and I told the guy I've never played pickleball. I have played ping pong, and I have played tennis, and I feel like it's somewhere in between the two, right?
and that reminds me of one time years ago. I was asked there was going to be this fundraiser. These two guys were going to do a fundraiser where they were going to ride their road bikes, not like motorcycles, but like road bikes and like cycling from Seattle all the way to San Diego. It was going to take them 2 weeks, and they were going to do about 100 miles every single day, and then obviously stop overnight. And they wanted me to come and say and just be a representative. So when they stop in these towns and there's PR, just come and talk and be a veteran voice. And I was like, I want to ride a bike, man. Like, put me on a bike. And they're like, have you ever ridden? I was like, I mean, I've taken spin classes before. What's the difference? Oh, there's a difference. And I'm real quick. There's a difference. But back to your question. I mean, first of all, like I said, I think everybody should play sports. And I think for me, what my definition of greatness is when something becomes less about you and about others, or about the team that you're a part of, whether it's a sports team, whether it's within your company team, whether it's within your family team, whatever thing you're a part of, organization you're a part of. I think that when you embrace that, hey, this is what my role is, and it's not about me, it's about us. To me, that's what greatness. That's true greatness, and that's when, honestly, from a speaking standpoint, early on in my speaking career, a lot of it was around me and what I had experienced. And granted, like, that's all I knew. And I remember someone sharing with me, when your story becomes less about you and more about helping others, that's when you're really going to start to make a difference. And of course, that didn't make sense to me at 21 years old. I mean, but later in my career, and now as a speaker, it's less about me. I'm giving you examples about my life and what I've experienced, but it's not about me trying to work through something. It's now about, I'm sharing this to help you as an audience member extract components of this that's going to apply to your life. So to me, that's what greatness is, man. Not about me. It's about us.
Yeah, helping you understand yourself and find the greatness that exists in you. Because I think we're all gifted to do something. You know, the whole stewardship thing. You know, some people are gifted in different ways. Instead of sitting around and being envious of somebody who's got different gifts than you that you would have preferred to have,
Yep,
find your own and go do something great with them. I
exactly.
think that exists in all of us.
Because you're putting your focus now in something that, and now your energy's going, and that's to following that
Mhm.
focus. Then now the energy or the focus is not in what you actually have a responsibility to do. Now it's completely just distracted by something else. And listen, there's been plenty of, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but there's been plenty of instances over the course of my life where I've admired other people and what they're doing, and I respect them. And there's a level of where I feel like, man, I could be doing that. Like, I think I could do that. And instead of like, I check myself and I'm like, all right, yeah, that's what I'm striving for. But in this moment, this is still what I gotta fulfill this, because if I don't fulfill this and I'm coming up short in what I currently should be doing, what makes anybody think that I'm capable of doing the other thing? Why give me the opportunity to do the other thing if I'm barely making it here?
Yep. So probably 18-year-old self doesn't see you where you are right now, right? So I think it's obviously your life. You've had to adapt, overcome, take advantage of opportunities as they've come. When one path didn't work out, choose another. So kind of what is your perspective on that? How do you view that? And
I think, I tell people all the time is like, after I was injured, I had to grieve.
yeah.
Um, I, I had to grieve, and what I had to grieve, even though I was alive, because a lot of us perceive grievance, and when you have to grieve something, is because something is no longer there, like you've lost somebody, right? And but I think all of us have to grieve because our identities are constantly evolving and changing.
Hmm.
So for me, what I had to grieve was the identities that I had, which were two identities that I had for myself prior to my injury. One, my appearance. That was my identity. And suddenly I looked at myself and I'm like, I don't look like that person anymore. So I had to grieve the loss of this person that I knew for 19 years of my life. Also, the identity of being in the military, of being of service, of wearing this uniform, of being a part of something bigger than myself, all those, key words that you frequently hear around service members. And I was told that I can't stay in the Army anymore and do that job. So I was devastated. And so I had to grieve the loss of those things. And I think, grievance, when we talk about that, we like to, as outsiders, witnessing somebody grieving something, we'd like to put a time frame on things, on their grievance, and how long they should be in this space. And a lot of times what that's related to is simply because we're the ones that it's uncomfortable,
Right.
right? If you're grieving something that happens in your life and you're coming to work every day because you still got to show up and do your
Mhm.
job, and we all got to create a living for ourselves and our families, and you're showing up, but your demeanor's off, your energy's off, I'm the one that's uncomfortable, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're in your space, you're not really paying attention. You're just doing and feeling and unfortunately projecting, but I'm the one that's uncomfortable. And so now I start coming to you and say, "Hey, you okay? Okay, all right. When you think you're going to be over this,
Yeah.
right? Like, you think you can get over this a little quicker?" And it's not because I care about you. I've made it about me now, and I've made it because I'm uncomfortable, because I haven't done enough work with myself, where when things that are perceived as conflict and it's really maybe a conversation, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have to work through that. So I had to go through that process, no different than anybody else that would go through anything. And I think that once I sort of got to a place where I just said to myself, I was like, I can't overwhelm myself with the thought process of what my life is going to be, because of course I started thinking, well, my life is over. I'm never going to do this, never that, never this, never that. And I had to stop overwhelming myself with the thought process of the future, and I had to recenter myself and regroup myself and put in my energy in the micro, in the now, in the short term. And what that meant was I had to find gratitude
Yeah.
in these moments. I had to find something to be grateful for. And in the midst of my recovery, I found a lot of things that I was grateful for. And, it's in some cases I had to like find ways to make things work, but I made them work to get me through each day. And I think that practice ultimately allowed me to get to a place of acceptance and saying, you know what, I'm good. no matter, I'm cool. I'm okay with this. Like, all right, I'm okay with it. The more I got into the world and the more I shared with people, the more I connected with people, the more people started to learn about me as a person and start to connect with me as a person, the more I was like, okay, like I'm okay with this. Like, then I started to realize, oh, wait, my scars, they're a blessing. Like, this is a blessing, all these graphs, everything, because we're a curious society, whether it's a child or an adult. And my scars, what it does is it causes you to pause for a moment and look at me. And curiosity, kicks in, and you're like, man, what happened to him? And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, my job, because you develop this skill to understand how to, when people are staring,
Yeah.
even though they think you don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's my job then to take that 15-second window of curiosity that you have and hopefully turn it into 30 seconds, into maybe 90 seconds and 200 and, like
Yeah.
minutes, hours, and year-long educated dialogue, right? That's my job. So I started to realize this is a gift in a lot of ways. And so, this didn't happen overnight. Of course,
Sure.
this was a process. And there were different stages where I would be in a good place. There would be something that would trigger me because physically I was fine. Emotionally and mentally, I realized over time, ooh, yeah, there's some wounds there, and I'm still struggling with a lot of things. And so it took me a while, man, to get to that place.
Yeah. So going through the grieving to finding gratitude to accepting, now kind of taking so much of your life's mission to helping others, people who've survived, maybe been through some similar circumstances to your own. Tell us a little bit about how that's evolved as you kind of got yourself to that healthy spot and then realized I've got ways that I can help others, unique ways that I can help
Yeah.
others.
So the thing that I think clicked for me was the first time I was encouraged to do a speaking engagement. I was like, there's no way in hell am I doing that. First of all, I can't talk for that long. I think we've identified I have no problem talking. You know, I am
Yeah,
not,
you
I,
overcame that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I have nothing to talk about. I got plenty to say, right? And so I remember, like, just okay, fine, I'll lean into it, I'll try it, see what comes of it. And I remember when I leaned into it after I was done speaking, and it was like a quick engagement, like 10, 15 minutes or so. People came up to me afterwards and they said, "We can relate to you." And I was like, what do you mean you can relate to me? How can you relate to me? Have you been through what exactly I've been through? And people were like, no, but we've had to deal with loss this way. We've had to deal with our identity change. We've had to deal with, just a gamut of things. And all of a sudden, it was that moment that clicked for me and made me realize, oh, we spend so much time and put so much emphasis on, if I go through what I go through, the only person that can help me get through this is somebody else that's been through exactly what I have been through. What you start to realize that if you run into somebody that's been through exactly the same thing, you got to be careful because that person now might, as you're trying to work through some stuff and they're there to help you, they might start as a term, grief hijacking. They
Yeah.
might grief hijack, and all of a sudden now they're dumping all their stuff. Now you're taking on their energy and all their stuff when you were like, man, I needed somebody, right? So I've learned that I have found solace and I found connection with people that have never experienced what I've experienced. But what the intersectionality is, the emotion, the feeling, we can all connect to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it's like to lose a child, and I hope I never do. I don't know what it's like to be at a job for X amount of years and then suddenly be let go. I don't know what it's like to, have a parent that, suddenly passes away. I don't know what it's like to, there's a lot of things I don't understand. That's not my experience. But I can talk to somebody about, man, just suddenly like the loss of this and what I frequently feel after the fact. Like, I can connect with a lot of that stuff. And so it's really simplifying it and understanding that we're all at a human level experiencing the same emotions.
Yeah.
And I think when we simplify it and go back to that place, okay, now this is hidden differently. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so for me, I think that's the thing that I don't know. I think for me, I think that's what I found, and that's what I continue to find, and that's why I think I've managed to have some longevity from a speaking standpoint.
Mhm.
Even though I haven't been on TV in years, but yet I don't need to be on TV because my reputation in the speaking market circuit speaks for itself, and people constantly are booking me for the biggest brands we know to come and speak and share because I have created that connection and people understand, oh, it's not just about him, it's
Yeah.
about us.
Yeah. So in this journey from, being in the military to being injured to kind of having to figure out a whole new life for yourself, were there people that coached you, that served as mentors to you, that you feel like kind of have shaped you into this journey and the position and man you've become?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of people that have played big roles, and there are a lot of people that have played literally one-off roles. Like, I mean, you think about a film or a TV show, you got the actors, that's the leading role,
Hmm.
right? And then you got the other actors that might have five lines, and or they're just the extra that's supposed to be in the space and just kind of fill it. And, I've had a lot of those actors in my life. I've had people that are leading roles, and I've had people that have had other roles, and some people that are just there, and maybe just have a 1 minute conversation with, and that 1 minute conversation means the world to me.
Yeah.
And I can give you a couple of examples, but I would tell you that after I was injured, when I got out of the military after 3 years in the hospital, or nearly 3 years, I was in the civilian world, as we refer to it, and I was struggling. And, listen, I'd put on a front because I was trying to be happy and find happiness and, connect with the work that I felt was important. But there were a lot of things that I was triggered by. And, and then I was also drinking. And, you mix those two things, it's not a healthy
Yeah.
recipe. And I would find myself being kind of like just angry. I
Yeah.
mean, just angry and lashing out at people. And one day, and this is kind of the big turning point in my life. One day, I was in Indianapolis with a group of veterans who were all there for a fundraiser, and we're all cool, and we go to dinner, and we're having a good time, and we're having drinks, and then we're on the way back to the hotel, and I'm sitting in the very back, and somebody in the SUV makes a comment, and not just joking, just being a guy, just clowning around, and I don't know, whatever it was. I just kind of I'd been triggered by something. I don't remember what, and I just kind of made a snarky remark back. And one of the vets, he was the driver, and he tells me, "Hey, Jr., chill out." Right? Like, I would tell somebody, "Hey, chill out,
Yeah.
relax." Right? Well, I didn't like the fact that he told me. So I immediately started yapping at him, and he's yapping at me, and I pretty much say to him, I was like, "I'll whoop your ass," and he's like, "Oh, you will?" So he pulls over, and and I'm trying to get out the back of this car, and all these other vets are holding on to me like, "No." I even got one vet. He's a double amputee. He's in the back of the damn car. I feel so bad, man. It's funny as hell, but I feel so bad. Look at those people back there in the back. Look at him. Like he doesn't even realize. We should get his information and tag him. He's in there like he don't even realize. Oh, there's tinted windows. He's back there checking his face. Just came from lunch. Doesn't realize it's on his.
I'm trying to ignore them.
Oh no, leave it up to JR to bring attention to something right there. And so and this is what vets, man, we have such a dark sense of humor, and we can laugh about this, and we did later. But these guys are trying to keep me from getting out of this car. And the vet, the double amputee, it has his arms around my waist. JR, no, no. And I'm dragging him because I'm so mad. And I'm his legs pop off.
I know that's not funny. I'm going to go to hell for laughing at that.
So it's just half of a grown ass man just holding on. And then of course I'd get him off of me, and I come around to the driver's side. And at this point, that vet gets back in the car and he locks the door. So he won't open the door. I'm trying to open the door, and I'm so pissed off. I'm like, I'm gonna punch this window. And but even though I kind of had a blackout, I was aware enough to be like, well, I ain't punching it with my bare hand. So I took my shirt off, wrapped it around my hand, and I punched the window a couple of times. Then I was humbled because it didn't break, and I was like, damn, like that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. So I walk my little ass around back to the other side of the car, and I get in the car, and it's just, I mean, you can imagine, what the vet's popping his legs, prosthetics back on, and it's a very like quiet, awkward drive back to the hotel, and I'm just in the back fuming, man. And we get to the hotel, and we all get out, and the vet in the driver's seat stays there. And as I'm walking in front of the car, he puts his window out and says, Jared, hey, come here, man. Sit in the passenger seat of the car. This is a dude that I was about to like duke it out with him. And he just told me to sit in the passenger seat of the car. So I get in the car, and he says, hey, man, listen. And he says, you've healed physically. You have not healed emotionally. He says, you know what you need to do? You need to cry. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't need to cry. He said, yes, you do, man. And he kept telling me I needed to cry. Before you know it, man, I just started crying. I didn't even know I was crying. And what's really fascinating about this is that, so because we had known each other for, about a good year and a half. Every time he and I would end the conversation, whether it was in person or over the phone, he would always say, I love you. And because my dad wasn't in my life, there wasn't men around me. And so every time he told me he loved me, I was like, man, that's weird. It's awkward. Mm-hmm. And so I'd always, the typical guy response, I'd be like, all right, bro, talk. See you, man. That was the way that I would respond. And here we are now in Indianapolis at like 3:00 in the morning in this car, just the two of us. I'm crying. I'm being so vulnerable. I'm sharing all this stuff that hurts me, that bothers me, that I'm struggling with. And he's just hugging me, and he's telling me, and that it's okay and all this stuff. And when that conversation ended, I was finally at a place where I looked at him and I said, I love you, man. I love you. And it was a turning point for my life, because what it allowed me to realize is that I could be vulnerable. I could be vulnerable, and not just with anybody, right? It had to be somebody, because and here's a part of the story I left out that's so important to share. I'm 5'9", about 210 right now. Back then I was probably I'm still 5'9". I was probably about 195 then. He is, at the time, he's 6'5", 6'4". He's about 285 pounds. So if he wanted to, he could have whooped my ass. Yeah. But instead, the reason he got back in the car and locked the door is because he said, no, I'm gonna show up with love and an open heart. And I'm not gonna judge this young kid, because he's 17 years older than me. So I'm a 24-year-old kid that's hurting. He's a 41-year-old man. And he's my best friend to this day. He's my best friend. He's my older brother. He's like a dad to me. He's Uncle Dan to my kids, but he's also like Grandfather Dan. He's the godfather to my kids. He is the guy in my life. And so he is the leading role in this story of mine, that played such an integral part, because I can tell you right after that, things started clicking for me. Opportunities started presenting themselves where I started getting more speaking. I started getting some, notoriety and some acknowledgement in different, magazines. And then an opportunity to become an actor presented itself. Like, things just started clicking. And like I said, it made me realize that I just needed to be willing, one, to lean in and to really spend some more time with myself. Yep. Right. In these quiet moments. And stop looking for external things to give me hope and to keep me above the water, if you will. Like, if you think of like being in a river and the current's so strong, or a lake, whatever, and it's just pushing you downstream, and you keep coming across these trees that kind of have these branches that kind of come out over the water. And all I was doing is drowning, and every now and then have enough energy to come out and try to grab a branch. But I was grabbing onto these small little weak branches, and those represent people that were not emotionally capable of supporting me. And that stuff, those branches would break. And guess what? I'd be back in that fighting. And it wasn't until finally I was really able to hang on to something. And that's when I realized, okay, I got to stop trying to look for other branches. I got to be the one that needs to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
I got to learn how to swim, right? And once I learn how to do that, then I can kind of manage and stay controlled in this current, and I can look at these branches that I know maybe aren't the ones for me to help me right now, and I can move on to the next one instead of wasting my time to try to hold on and be disappointed. So, I mean, that's a deeper metaphor for life, but essentially that's the way I ultimately started to turn my life around. And honestly, that's the way I operate today.
Yeah.
When things feel a little overwhelming, I'm under control and I just pay attention and find out who are the people around me, what are the things around me that I know I can hang on to that will be my lifeline and get me there. But I'll equally know I got to sit with myself and I got to identify some things about myself as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. For if someone were to come up to you and say, look, I feel like I'm in a good place personally, but I really want to make a positive impact to the people around me. I would like, nobody's asking me to be a mentor to them, but I feel like I'm ready to take that step, and I would love, it needs to happen organically, right? I think to be
Yeah.
really good, but I want to make a difference in my community. What kind of advice would you give them on how to get started there?
The biggest thing I would tell people is like, I think it's important for you to understand what inspires you. What are some areas that you're passionate about? What are some things you're passionate about? Because you can easily have that desire, that ambition, and put yourself in a space to be like, I'm just going to go do this. And that's not really the space that's fulfilling the thing, the interest that you have, or the gift that you have. And so I think it's a matter of really like, well, what is the experience? What is it that you want to share with people? Where do you feel like you can connect with people? So for me, I started on the burn ward. I started visiting other burn patients. That was easy, right? Then it branched out to where I visited more vets, service members. That was easy, safe space. I know it well, right? So I would say anybody that, if you have you relationship, like complications or if you've lost something or this is like I say, put yourself in an environment you understand. And from that, you will be able to start to build and branch out eventually. But I tell people lean in. You don't have to have all the answers. You
Yeah.
don't have to have the answers to what to say, when to say it, how to say it. You just got to be willing to put your butt in a space that might feel a little uncomfortable for you at the time. But I guarantee you, you're going to be able to change somebody's life. And more importantly, they're going to be able to change yours.
Yep. So maybe some of the foundations that you're working with now, or you maybe have something of your own that you're passionate about. If people are listening today and they would like to get behind you and support you, maybe book you as a speaker, what's the best way to get in touch with you or support your efforts?
Well, I think the website obviously has like a lot of information, which is jrmartinez.com. But I think if you can also on social media, my handle is I am Jr. Martinez, and listen, there's been a lot of organizations over the years that I've been involved in. Kind of at a stage in my life right now where I've started to really narrow it down. I've really paid more attention over the years to people's financial. What are people doing? Is sometimes a lot of these things are just it looks good, it sounds good, not really get into the root of some things, and I'm speaking more related to like service members. Um, so I've supported a couple organizations, but Operation Triage, it's an organization here in Texas, and just going out. I mean, the people that are running this organization. I mean, like 98% of the money that comes in goes to the programs, to the people they assist. So there's no salaries, there's nothing. It's all purely volunteer. And you have these guys that are going into these homes, even for the older vets, for Vietnam vets, even older, that have never either applied for their VA benefits, didn't know they were available, and they go in and they fight for them and get their paperwork done. I could tell you two stories. Somebody called me the other day and said, "Man," and then he called me. He said, "God is good." And I said, "What's up?" And he said, "Man, I've been helping this vet. They had some issues with their home, their foundation stuff. So we came in, we helped them, we got it all fixed up." He's like, "But in the meantime, I also helped him with his VA paperwork." He just was able to get that vet accepted to be 100% rated within the VA. Now, for those of you that don't understand how this works, when you have a service-connected injury and you get rated, that's a disability.
Hmm.
your disability, how much money you get every single month. So it can vary, right? So if you're in Tennessee, if you're 100%, I mean, you could probably get somewhere, and depending if you got dependents or things like that, you could probably end up getting about $2,700 tax free coming to you. Boom, that's your money. And then obviously it shifts, it changes based on cost of living, based on percentage, et cetera. This vet had nothing. He got that vet 100%. Not only 100%, which here in Texas was going to give them around 3,500, I think it was, every single month. They went from going to the food pantry, getting food, to now being able to purchase food for the pantry. And another family got 100%, and they were able to also get back pay for the last 10 years. So this vet now, it went from having nothing to now is about to have $300,000 back pay, in addition to the rest of his life. And also in certain states, I think Tennessee, this applies to as well. Certain states, if you're 100% rated, you pay no property taxes.
Yeah.
So this organization is like doing all this work, and a lot of people, hey, building a $1 million, $2 million home for a vet and a family, that's cool, that's great. Gary Sinise Foundation is a friend of mine, like does a lot of great stuff.
Yep.
But I look at what this organization does, man, and the way that they're able to sit here and say, we can't sit here and show the donor that we've built this mansion, or because we don't have those type of resources. But I can tell you that I have volunteered my time to help fix the foundation in their current home. I got them $300,000, and now I got them $3,000 for the rest of their life, and they pay no property taxes. Boom. So, I mean, it's called Operation Triage, man. If anybody feels inclined, look it up. I mean, I would encourage you to do that. But
in a country as wealthy as ours, this is one of those things I feel like we should take care of our veterans first and foremost. There shouldn't be any questions about it.
But, and especially because, and this is kind of getting on maybe a little bit of a tangent here, but someone asked me, they said, when we have these numbers as far as like the enrollment to the military, what do you think? The numbers are low. People aren't really joining the military. What are your thoughts? I said, listen, I think, it's not one brush. You can have one brush that's going to, paint every wall equally, right? But I think a big contributor to that is when there's stories out there of how we're not taking care of our service members and their families.
Yep.
Why would a young man or woman decide that's what I need to do? That's where I'm going to go, right? When they can go into the private sector and out of college or after they learned a skill and they can make X amount of dollars and have benefits. Why would you go into the military where you don't go there to get rich unless you're going to climb the ranks and get the rank? Why would they choose that? And until we do a better job and eliminating a lot of those stories of where service members are forgotten and taken care of, until we do a better job, no one's going to be inclined to want to join the military. Why would they volunteer to do that? And so I think that is one of the things. And so to your point, I mean, as much as it's great to be like the government should be taken care of, I get that. But we as human beings, as grateful Americans, as that is the title of Gary Sinise's book, as a grateful American, nonprofits are an opportunity for us to step up and do something on behalf. So we can't just sit here and be like, well, let the government do it. Let them take care of it. Yeah, they should. And they do a lot. And there's things they could do better. But we also should be getting our butts up off the couch and saying, hey, what can we do to support this family? Because it isn't just the service member, man or woman. It's the spouse, it's the kids, it's the parents, it's the siblings, it's the friends that are surrounding that veteran that also needs that support.
Yeah, I know you talked a little bit about it when, one of the things that motivated you to join the military at a young age. I grew up in a different era of time than our kids are growing up in today, but I mean, it was very common that you were kind of raised up with a love of country, that, that America's a good country at its core. And I don't think we do as good a job of that. And we're not as full-throated. There's a political divide that kind of separates us into factions around that about how good the country is. But, I'd never been on a commercial airline flight in my life until I was out of college. And then with Jack Daniels, the time that I was with them, I went to 41 countries over about a 10, 12-year period. And I told people I have an appreciation for having traveled to other countries. And oftentimes it would be countries that people will look to as being maybe better than America at certain things. But I can tell you, as a whole, I've never been to another country that I felt like was as good as America. There was never a country that I would have preferred to give up my citizenship for to live there. And I've been to some beautiful places. I've been to some friendly places. I had to countries that had a lot going for them. But all in all, the American experience is still worth fighting for. It's still something that kids should believe in. And I think we need to think about that we're also maybe raising a generation who doesn't love the country as much as the ones that we're just celebrating and that stormed Normandy 80 years ago. And made the ultimate sacrifice for this country.
No, and you're absolutely right about that. And I think that there's a lot of, we tend to be a society now that tends to focus on the negative, and there's a reason why there's terms out there like clickbait, and because you see something, you're like, oh, what's that? It's going to be something dark and heavy, and you kind of go in that direction, but it's easy to kind of lean in on those things when it's on a device, right? Because it's not here present. When it's in your space, then we don't want it. But we just tend to be a society right now where, we just harp on one thing or two things, negative, whatever. And the reality is like every country, that you've been to, that I've been to, every country, every place has their things. Every place has their things. So of course, so when you're trying to navigate a country, like there's always going to be something, right? It's not going to be perfect, but all in all, shit, man, like this is
still a good place. It's still a good
place.
Still
a hell of a place, man. Like still a place where, listen, I'm going to tell you now, I want to be able to get a plane ticket, man. I want to come out to East Tennessee. I want to sit down with you. I want to sit here and maybe have some whiskey and see how many people we can sit here and watch that pass by that window and just laugh about it, man, and just have a good
This road right here is going into one of the national park entrances into the Smoky Mountains to Cades Cove. So if you're trying to see elk or bear or deer in the wild, this is where you're going to want to go. So we're right outside one of the entrances into the national park.
Either that's a good place to stop, more than likely after I've gone and taken the tour and got scared the hell out of me by a bear, and you come there and have a drink, But yeah, man, I mean, I think for me, listen, I don't regret anything. I don't. I mean, I look at my experience and one point for a long time, it was considered a tragedy. And I look at it now as a blessing because, I've learned a lot from it. And obviously my life was spared and I've been able to figure out what I can do with this second chance at life. But I have no regrets, man. I'd do it all over again. And because I know people are probably wondering, well, what if his kids want to join? I would support my children.
Yeah.
I would support my children. Listen, I think a job of a parent is to say, hey, listen, there's all these opportunities out there in the world. I think you should find something where you can be giving back, whether it's through the military, whether it's through nonprofit sector, some sort of service. You need to make time to give back to society, to your community on some level.
Yeah.
But if my kids decide to join the military, I am not putting my foot down and saying absolutely not. I'm just going to say, well, let's have a conversation to understand what do you want to do in the military. And because whether your military career is only going to be 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, you want to make sure you're doing something you enjoy. You want to make sure you do something that's going to give you a lot of training, a lot of skills, that when you get out, you can now go into the civilian sector and actually find something and take that training and those skills and apply it into a job here. But I am not no, don't do that at all, because look what happened to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys, a lot of men and women join the military. Some don't have the same experiences as I do. So
Sure.
Can't paint, like I said, paint every wall with the same brush.
Well, you have been very generous with your time today, and I know it's gone a little bit longer than we probably told you to expect, but we like to close.
No, I'm supposed to be done 30 minutes ago.
But we like to close every one of these podcasts by asking everybody the same question, just to kind of get a perspective on life and values and things of that nature. But I didn't explain to you, but we're company distilling, and the word company, oftentimes people think of a cinder block box where they show up to toil their days away and earn a check. But the
Yeah.
original meaning of that word is those you break bread with. So the word company, it's an army term, right? It was a group of people tasked with similar skills to accomplish certain things together, but it was about camaraderie and companionship. So that's really where that word is rooted. And that's why we chose it, because we were formed during the pandemic when people couldn't go out to bars or restaurants. They had to have company come over. If they were going to see anyone, the people that mattered to them, people who weren't family but mattered a lot to them. So what would you say for the Martinez family? What's your perfect gathering around? That's one of the slogans of the brand. What would a gather around moment be for you? What would be an ideal evening? Who'd be there, and what would you be doing, and what kind of memories are you going to
Um,
make?
Man, first of all, I love what that all is about.
Yeah.
That to me is just kind of getting to the simple life, the good life,
Yep.
and not making it more complicated than it needs to be. So kudos to you guys for
Yep.
that. Man, last night, and I know whenever this is going to air, it's going to throw people off timing wise when I say this, but we're recording this and it is Friday right now.
Yep.
Last night, which was Thursday, my daughter's out of school, but we were having dinner, the four of us, and my daughter says, "I want to go in the pool," and we're like, "All right, cool, let's, all right, cool." And my wife looks at me, she's like, "Daddy, do you have some work to do? Can you jump in the pool?" And I was like, "Yeah, I could jump in the pool. Let's jump in the pool." My son, who's 2.5, he's like, "Hey, you go to the pool?" So excited. And the four of us get in the pool, man. And it's a beautiful evening here in Austin. The pool's the perfect temperature. And we got the TV out and we're watching because, again, my daughter plays softball and we support, University of Texas Longhorns softball team. And they're in the college softball World Series and they're in the national championship game. And we're like, I'm like, and I had so many moments over the course of the, maybe 2 hours we were out there. I'm like, this is life, man.
Yeah.
This is life.
Yeah.
This is
You want to bookmark those memories.
this
Yeah.
is it,
Yeah.
man. Like hearing my son's laughter, being able to watch a game that my daughter loves, that she's kind of taught us to love, and supporting her, and being able to see that I never thought I would ever have a partner, and I have a beautiful wife and a beautiful mother to my children, and I'm like, golly, man, I'm so blessed. I'm such a blessed man, and so that's a beautiful moment for me. And during COVID, it was just the four of us, right? And we worked and we made it work and we accomplished a lot as a family during that period when we were all isolated. But I can tell you, man, like I love a moment when I can pull over, the lead actor in my movie, Dan, who's my guy. He comes over to the house because he only lives about an hour south of me. He comes over with his wife. I got a couple buddies in the neighborhood that are in the same similar stage of life, that their kids are friends with my kids, and we sit in the backyard, or whether it's at a pool or whether it's just sitting in the backyard, you might have a cocktail, a beverage of choice, and you're just sitting back and you're just enjoying good company and people that are in the same stage of life that can appreciate the things that you appreciate. To me, that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. JR, I just want to thank you once again for being our guest today. It's been a real honor getting to meet you this way. Wish we could have done it in person, but I look forward
Yeah,
I look forward to you coming to East Tennessee, and we'll hold you to it.
I'm gonna do it,
All
man.
right.
Listen, look, my travels take me everywhere, and I've gotten to the point that we can exchange information once we get offline. But I'm gonna share this before we log off. Somebody taught me this little hack, and I think it's great. And I think all of us should do this more often. So this guy taught me this hack. He travels a lot. He meets a lot of people, which you do, I do, a lot of people watching do. And he said, when I get someone's contact information, I used to just save their name in my contact. He says, but now what I do is I'll save you in my contact, but before your first name, I put Knoxville or East Tennessee, whatever.
Yep.
So when next time I'm going to that town, that city, that state, that
Yep.
part of the country, I go to my contacts and I say, okay, let's see what we got for Knoxville. What do we got for, Atlanta? What do we got for whatever? And then you can see people's names.
Yep.
So we're going to exchange information, my man. This won't be
Perfect.
the last. I'm going to save you. I'm going to put you down as East Tennessee because you're being discreet about exactly where you are. You know, no, I'm kidding. And so next time I find myself in that area, you can guarantee you, man, I would definitely hit you up and stop by. But thank you for creating the platform. Thank you for branching off, doing your own thing, man, and doing it your way. And it's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you. It really has.
Well, thank
really
you.
has.
Hey, and for everybody who's been listening today, I would like to thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed this round of Distilling Greatness podcast, and we'll continue to tune in every month. But JR, you were the best, man. Thank you so much for being our guest today. For everybody who's following us online, please check jrmartinez.com, see what he's up to, maybe catch one of his motivational speeches in the future. But just everybody, thank you very much. Stay safe this summer. We'll see you soon.